Right then, the next stage, hopefully. These have been left in a cool, dry shed for about 3 days after using the shellac on them. The neck is a little bit patchy, but it's not too bad. Needs a little bit of sanding maybe. I'll do a bit more on the neck. That's a different one. Finishing on the neck will be a different video. I think we'll leave that one for now. But let's see how the body got on. The most colourful part anyway. Look at the shine on that. Take it outside down a second. Oh, we're good. I'm liking that. Nice and even. I think we're in. As I say, the next step, it's all down to the weather. We've got terrible rainy weather here at the moment. So we're going to see if we can get a window. And let's go get the spray. Clear lacquer time. As you can see, it's a miserable, miserable day, but it isn't raining at the moment. It's actually quite bright. We're all good. So I've got a choice of a clear high gloss lacquer or some nitrocellulose. I think I'm going to go with this one for that vintage look. As I say, mask needed, goggles too, because I'll be working outside. This stuff absolutely reeks, so we're going to do it out here. And I'm going to film it through the window. So next step you'll see will be a time lapse of this one. Get 2 or 3 coats on if you can in the day, and then we leave it to dry for a couple of days. But it's very good, look at that. Kept a lot of sheen already. This is going to be nice and high gloss. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Next. Well, we have made a catastrophic error, partly down to the weather conditions, but partly down to me. Yep, you can see how patchy it is. This is going to have to be sanded back, the shellac too. We're going to have to start this again. Oh well, another day, another dollar. The back doesn't look too bad though, it's a bit patchy though. But, it's the shellac, you see, it's very dense, that's why you're spraying it in mists. I'm going to leave this in, there's a few drips there, need to go. Yep, sand all over, back to the shellac, start again. Yeah, you have to be very, very light when you're spraying this one. And it's the first time using it. So, should I go for the clear lacquer, the modern stuff? Interesting, really. It's annoyed me a bit, but we'll get there. What do you think? See the patches? I'm gonna have to leave it to dry before I can sand it, because there are some points where it's actually gone straight into the wood and it's bone dry. It already looks like it's relict. That was in the Fender custom shop. They charge you an arm and a leg for that these days. You can see that there. Look at that. That's terrible. Okay, start again. Well, we start back from the shellac. So the next cut you're going to see is just going to be a second or two. For me, it's going to be 1 or 2 days. Bollocks. Next, we're back. It's only been a second or two for you, but for me, it's been nearly a week. Basically, what happened was, we'll turn this way slightly. We had a problem with the shellac reacting to the nitrocellulose. Something I probably should have tested, so it's mainly my fault. But failure is always an option. You have to learn from it. So what we're going to do, I'll show you the results of it in a second, is we're going to resand everything back to the first layer of shellac, and then we're going to polish it, and we're going to do a French polishing group. And that involves using basically the rest of my shellac, which I have here. A lot of sanding, polishing, buffing, and everything in between. So it's going to be a slightly longer video, and this has become a slight saga with a haircut in the middle. But this is what it looks like. As you can see, it actually started to dry as it went on and flaked off. Some areas it absorbed in, some areas it didn't. The back is even worse, you can see that. But we can sand this back. These drips here where it was hanging. It's a horrible rough finish now. It's disappointing really, because I was happy with the way that shellac finished. But it gives me something to do anyway. So here we go. We are now going to go... Oh, one other thing. One bonus feature of the nitrocellulose was the way that the neck was finished. The neck actually came out remarkably smooth. So with a bit of sanding and one more coat, we've got something we can use that for. I'm not going to go overly heavy on the finish on the neck, because I don't like that anyway. It just feels like you're constantly moving through butter or something. So that's the next stage. So the next thing you're going to see me do is yet more sanding. What I would give to have an orbital sander. Anyway, still unhappy. We'll get there. Sanding, time lapse, next. We have a tragedy here. We're going back to bare wood. We have to go all the way back. It's the only fucking option. and I'm not happy. There will be more swearing in this episode. Right, heavier grit sandpaper back to the wood stain. Luckily I still have a lot of stain left. Unhappy is the word. Next. Right, I'm not having any more of this hand sanding. It's time to get drastic. We have to do something very, very drastic now, and that is go back to square one, back to bare wood. So, got a bit of daylight. I'm going to try and get as much done as I possibly can in a few hours to get it back looking pretty much what it looked like in the last video. Need a title for this video, and I think it's going to be called Failure is Always an Option. It usually happens to me. But anyway, there's one good thing. Now I get to play with my big toys. I'm going to do this outside because it's a dusty fucking job. This video is not going to plan. Next. Here's something tragic for you. That's what it looks like now. I don't remember what it used to look like. The good thing is, though, all that horrible clear coat is gone. I can now hand sand this back to the way it was. The grain hopefully will survive a little bit to finish up all these edges again, because you don't normally use a fucking Black & Decker when you're doing a guitar build. Here's what it is. Got to do all the rest of this by hand, just because that's a small chore. But the back, as I say, back to something that resembles wood. There's a lot of scratches because that, as I say, an orbital sander would have been a lifesaver. But now we're going to go back. We're going to sand. What that would have taken me a day, probably, to sand all that off by hand. It took me about 45 minutes with that creature outside. However, it had to be done. So, the next thing is a time lapse of sanding by hand. I'm going to put on a long film. I'm going to make a cup of tea. And then we're going to stain it all over again. Hopefully by the end of the night, we should be ready for the next stage. This video is now something approaching half an hour long or something, and it goes to show that anything can go wrong if you let it. If I ever did this again, that's a big scratch, I would definitely be investing in an orbital sander. And possibly some alcohol. Next. Where am I looking? Yeah. I'm taking my own advice. Just because. Time for a beer. Cheers. Next. Right, back to the wood stain. Good God, I didn't think I'd have to do this again. You know the drill, all black all over, black ebony lacquer. This one a bit thicker than it was before. Then we're going to go bit of wire wool. On the back, same again. This is going to be a bit more uniform as it was before. There are some deep scratches which will have to live there, but I'm going to go thicker with the stain on the back this time. But this time, unlike when I started, I just opened another beer. So, cheers. Hey, next. We are back to this position again. Look at it. It actually looks, well, I didn't think we'd get that grain back. There's a couple of little marks here, but when you look at it, that's going to be covered by a scratch plate anyway. So we're okay. I didn't think I would be feeling anyway optimistic today. But this has a nice smell. It's looking like a guitar again and not like a plank of wood that was drenched in acid. And I've got a beer and I have to wait for this cunt to dry. I'm so glad I didn't throw that bottle of wood stain out. Very, very good stuff, that. This is the Little Fairs, as I say, it's water-based interior wood dye. But it's a black ebony, so it's got kind of browny black to it. You can see as it's drying here, you can see nice little bits with that. Thankfully, these grains are staying. I thought I'd ruined it for a minute with that fucking belt sander. Oh, God. So essentially, you're just watching a bloke drink on the internet now. So, how you getting on anyway? All good? So, we have some of the green dye left, as you can see. It's actually a bit thicker than it was before. I might mix up a little bit more. But first thing we're going to do, we're going to tack this once it's dry. I would say it's actually dry to the touch at the moment. Give it an hour. Then we're going to sand it back. And we're going to do a little bit of wire wool to blend it in around the edges as we did before. We're going to go around the edges with the black again. And then we're going to go in deep with the green. This green is going to be a lot darker than the last one. And I'll be fucking angry if this is ruined. Put the dye down, pick up the beer. Jesus. Also doesn't help that it's absolutely freezing today. I had to take my hoodie off because I didn't want to get all covered in sand or sawdust. But there you go. If anything, I think it's a more uniform finish. See that there? Look at that. Grain's still there. A little bit wet here, you can see. A bit picked up on that. That's okay. It's not going to do any harm. Sand the diamond out of the middle. Opening pretty well. We're going to go one more coat. There's a scratch I can't get rid of. You can see it. That was there before. Another one here. A couple of scratches I can't get rid of. That's actually not looking that bad. There's a couple of, that bit there at the top. There's a massive gash in the wood when we got the guitar, so that one's be there. But as I said earlier on in this video, which was actually 6 or 7 days ago, or whatever it was, to get a relic job like that in the custom shop, vendor would charge you an arm and a leg. There you go. Right, I'm gonna finish this beer. I'm gonna order myself some food. I'm gonna have to flick this light on in a bit because it's gonna get dark soon. And then we're gonna sand this back. We're gonna get it back to a sunburst, or as close as we can get. And if it dries, because it dries a lot quicker than I remember it did. It was particularly here. We might get a coat of shellac on it as well. Yeah. Are you still watching? If you're still watching that, hello, by the way. I don't normally talk to people much on the internet, and a couple of questions that were asked, by the way. One of them was, where's the music coming from during the time lapses? And I recorded all of those. And you can find those as multi-cam jams on this page as well. They're kind of mellow, kind of fun. All live as well, which is good. And yeah, so there you go. Thank you for watching. We're going to do a bit more time lapse on this. So next time you see this, it'll be me getting a bit of sunburst going. Then we're going to go have something to eat. Next. That was the quickest time lapse you've ever seen, isn't it? Boom, boom. Where's it gone? Here it is. We're back to a burst. We've got a couple of problems because the green actually soaked straight through into this piece of grain. Nothing really we can do about that. But I think it's going to emphasise it. And also, scratch plate's going to go over there. So you're only going to see that little bit there. But it's all going to be green anyway. The back, as I say, is a little bit more uniform. Right, we're going to have a bit of fun with this. Once again, the green is leached into a bit of the grain, but it's all going to be green anyway. We've got our grain back. I've got food on the way, so let's see if we can do a very, 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 very quick first pass on the wood staining. We're going to do another pass around the edges in black to make it a little bit darker on the front. The back we're going to leave pretty uniform as we did before. Can't believe all this has happened again. But there we go. You watch that doorbell will ring now in a minute. In fact, you'll hear the phone vibrate. But we'll get there. We'll get to have a burger in a minute. Right. Black first. Around the edges. Still pretty moist, but we'll get a bit more onto it. This time we want to massage it in so we don't get too many drips. And here we go. Ready? Around the edges. A little bit more of a practiced hand at this now. Because I've already done it before. Bastards. Might do a black burst one day. Almost looks like that silver fox thing that Gibson used to do. A bit more dark on the bottom here. Now we've got another cloth, ornamental. Dry cloth, not the best cloths in the world. I had lovely silk ones the last day. Just feather this in. When it's a bit wet. And we are going to go straight on with a pass on the green. Strike while the iron is hot, as they say. A bit more up here. So you get that nice teardrop shape. Looks quite good on the camera, that, I must admit. Doesn't look bad in real life either. Maybe we can learn from things like mistakes and end up with something a lot better quality than the first time. What do we think? Eh? If anyone knows me, they know I am not the most optimistic bastard in the world. Getting the excess off with that, you see. Went in with some wire wool, so it pulls it back on the grain. We only want this on here a little bit. Got a nice feathered effect there. And we're going to do the whole thing in green next. And guess what we need? You know what, I reckon we can get away with this. Oh, this is expanded. I'm going to stop this now because I'm not going to be so embarrassed that I can't open the jar on camera. Strength of 10, man. There we go. Here we go. Green, 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 green. Are we ready? Are we ready? This is going to be brilliant. I've actually enjoyed doing this the last time. So let's go for it. Ready? Let's go for it. Oh, this is a rustic looking colour now. All that different layers. I'm liking it. I am liking it. There's a lot of the brown gone into it as well. Let's get that out of the way. We're going to do this, let it dry. We're going to go in with the wire wool one more time. Get a bit of the excess off here. Oh, look. I think this might actually come out better than the last time. What do we think, eh? Look at that. Look at that. Now, there's a lot of dark here, so we're going to go back in with the wool afterwards. We're going to lighten this up. Because what we're also doing is we're pulling the slightly wet dye into it. That way this is a nice effect. Avoiding all things such as drips. I am happy with that. Now, dry a cloth. What do we think of that then? That's a nice bit of grain, isn't it? Next step, as I say, get that so it isn't shining. We've got the top light on now, so we're going to go back in. We let this side dry. We're going to go in, the wire wool around it. We're going to go brighter in the middle, and we're going to pull that sunburst out. But first, we're going to do the back entirely uniform. It's great, great stuff. This is. It dries very, very quickly. Once again, it smells very nice. Water-based, so this isn't solventy and smelly. Boom. Oh, look at that. Look at it. Look at it. Now, ready? If we go with the back. It's okay, we can leave this face down and flip this dust sheet. Now, this we're going to go pretty uniform with the green, so we go with the cloth we had just now. Ready? Here we go again. This now looks nice. I'm very happy. Little high mark there. We can come in with the black dye over that in a minute. We're not doing a burst here really, we're doing just a green wash. Put it around the sides as well because it's nice and dark. Dry side of this, there's a police helicopter overhead, don't know if you can hear it. Probably responding to the crime against guitars that I did earlier, taking a belt sandwich. Okay, here we go. Get rid of all the drips. Let's put a bit of black in there. There we go. Fuck it, let's do a little bit of a humble, bursty type job on the back of this just for the sake of it. Feather it back in with the wet green. I could live with that. Look at that. Find a safe way of picking it up. What do you think of that? That's alright, isn't it? Compared to what it was like. I think we're on a winner, lads and lasses. That's pretty damn good. 10 minutes this took. Well, today it's taken me 7.5 hours to get this far. It took me 20 minutes the last time to ruin 5 days work. But it took me 7 hours to get back to where it was. That I'm proud of. Right, so we leave this to dry. Right, we are going to go in here, brighten up the middle of this sunburst. We'll take a bit more out here, a bit more out here, and then it's sinking into the grain as it dries. You can see it brightening up there. And then we're going to go dark green. Green. Told you that green was going to be a little bit thicker. See, that's the same mix as what I had the last time. You can actually see it almost lacing up the glass. There you are. Cheers. Well, I've been fed and watered, so there we go. This is now dry. A couple of little patches here, we're not going to hit that too much anyway. Wire wool. We're going to go in, we're going to brighten up the middle on the front and back, and then we're going to restain it with a nice hefty green. This hopefully should be the last stage in this particular process tonight. And then we're back to square one, nearly, because I've got to shellac it again. Unbelievable. So here we go. Next. Well, it's the end of a long old stint doing this today. It's about 7 hours of work to bring it back from the brink, where I actually thought I might have to cancel the whole project, to this, which I think is actually a nicer burst than the original one. Those grains are really pulled out well. There's a really nice teardrop shape in the middle of it. And if you look at the back, it's even more nice. That's a really dark emerald green. And I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I was really worried earlier. I was really annoyed earlier as well. Having to take a belt sounder to a guitar was something I never thought I'd have to do, but there we go. We're going to let this dry. And it'll be another few days before I can start doing the shellac again. But when I do the shellac, it's going to go on layers. Buff it. Fireworks going off outside. It's going to go in layers. It's going to be buffed. It's going to be sanded. Then it's going to be buffed and sanded. It's going to be layers upon layers upon layers. We're going to French polish it up. And I think that's going to be the best way to do this as a finish. Because I know exactly what I can get out of the shellac now. I'm going to order some more. As I say, the one that I was using was this one. And that's all I've used out of it. So that should be enough to get me on my way. That got me 5 or 6 coats, I believe, the first time round. And I can tell you how solid it is. It needed a belt sander to get it off. So there you go. Next. Be careful when you're using this stuff, by the way. It froths up. You don't want to use it when it's frothy. And there is a little sediment in it, so shake it like that. You turn it upside down, let the bubbles go to the bottom. It'll take a few minutes, and then when you slowly turn it around, it'll be nicely mixed. You do not want it when it's got a head on it. Like that. Otherwise it just doesn't coat evenly. I just had enough dye left. Look at that. Little dribble left in there. Just enough. One step forward, 2 steps back. But happy days. Do you want to see it put together for the first time? Well, it's there. Starting to look a bit like a guitar. Doesn't look bad, does it? See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Next one should be calmer. Bye.